You're watching New Car Spin. I'm your host, Brian Grant, where I put the spin on new cars. And this is Conversation Alley. I want to first start out by saying thank you for subscribing and thank you for watching, because every hour or so I go through the YouTube app and check for comments and look at views and stuff. And every time I look, those subscription numbers go up and up and up and up, 2 or 3 times an hour. So thank you very much for that. Now for Conversation Alley, today I want to talk about a few things. A lot of you want long vlog style conversational topic stuff that maybe I can podcast one day. I'm looking into podcasting, and thanks for requesting that. But for the most part, I'm going to do this video right now based on some of the comments and the questions I've had in my previous videos. So before I do that, I think I'm going to discuss one of the questions somebody had on my tech background. They said, based on my experience, what would I do differently? And from that, what would I give someone who's starting off into tech? What would I give them as the best advice? And for the most part, what I can tell you is I have no regrets for all the work that I've done. I've done, delivered, and moved on. And to me, the best thing you could do for yourself is not linger on old technology. And the technology will change every couple of months. You know, look at Angular, for example. It was 1, then 2, they skipped 3, went to 4. 5 was launched in March, and 6 will be out in October, hopefully. So you know, if you're into Angular and JavaScript, that's good for you. But if you do stuff like learning Dojo just dies off. But there are things out there like jQuery. There's a lot of stuff you just have to understand, but you don't have to base your whole life on it or your whole career on it for the next decade, because it's going to change. So my best advice to you is avoid people who complain. So when you're at work and people just complain and they don't offer any solutions, or they don't have any way to alleviate the pain points, they're not people worth listening to. And avoid the a-holes. So I worked with one in particular at Apple, and all he did all day was smoke weed, and he tried to hide it, but we know what a weed cough smells like or sounds like. And basically, you know, he was just up himself with his knowledge and attitude. I mean, he even made one female employee cry, because he was just like very factual, very algorithmic. He was very binary. He was just a tasteless person in general. And I don't like working with people like that. I like working with people who are actually geniuses, you know, people who have PhDs, people who have a PhD in astrophysics but like to program for computers. Like that's something that you want to be around. When I started at Disney, I was paired up with a PhD in artificial intelligence. And that was really cool. And his name is Newton Lee, and he is just incredible. I mean, you will learn so much around those people. So if you're starting and you're a graduate, definitely be paired with a lot of PhD people. And of course, like, you got to network as well. And don't just kiss a bunch of ass. You got to actually do something where you can work on a project and deliver and prove you're worth something. Speaking of which, what's up?
Hey, what's up, man?
Okay, so speaking of networking, I just came across somebody who I talk to all the time here, where I network, right? But basically, you know, you can hit the ground running, but you want to definitely be able to deliver something, whether it's front end or back end, or whether you're into biz dev. You just have to kind of like work on the vision and deliver it. I wouldn't get hung up on the actual A to B, or the effort, or the minutia of 3 cycles, and, you know, whether or not this is a story point or 5 story points and agile. Just give me the work and it will be delivered. That's my philosophy. But if you are in tech and you're new, your best thing to do as well is live beneath your means. You may make 40 grand a year, 70 grand a year. You may make more than that from the get-go. And your best thing to do is don't piss it away on rent. Don't piss it away on alcohol. Just be very You can go on vacations and stuff, but be very cautious about how you're going to spend that money. You don't necessarily have to save all of it, but definitely buy something to live in. When I first started at Disney, I was 21 years old, and I basically dropped out of college. And when I started there, the next thing I did was I bought a condo in Simi Valley, California. And I got 0% down because California has a first-time buyer program and all this other stuff. And I got a 2-bed, 2-bath condo, and I lived in it for 2 years. And then by the time I sold it, and this was just before, this was 2003 when I sold it, so it was before the real estate boom, I pocketed more money tax-free on that condo than I did actually working at Disney for those 2 years net. So keep that in mind. Don't rush into stuff, and don't go out and lease an M4 BMW right away simply because you make just enough money to make the car payment. Scale yourself back a little bit and think about scalability. You know, if you can pocket $1 to $2 grand a month, and then you could afford you the ability to go to different employers or work on different projects, that's what you should do if you want to stay ahead of the curve. That's my best advice. Now, if you like where you work or you like who you work with and you want to keep doing it, then that's good. Whatever keeps you happy is the best way to go. But some people just can't stay in the town because the town doesn't have enough work. For instance, Austin is very limited on the tech side. Most of the tech companies that may appear to be here are just facades. A lot of it is just customer service. And a lot of the tech people here come and go, and it's not really a big enough city for all the tech, and it's expensive. So it's right along the lines of San Francisco and Seattle when you look at rent. So be sure that you choose to work for a company that pays enough. You want to make sure they're competitive. And the negotiation is always the hardest part, but I'm going to leave that to you. I can't really give you any advice. I think because I have 20 years of experience, they just kind of get it out of the way first because they don't want to waste my time. But at the same time, if you're young and you're getting into it, you know, you should be getting a fair and equitable position and go from there. And put effort into it. You know, it's not just a cakewalk. You're supposed to actually do work and make things happen. And it's only until you make things happen and deliver projects that you will be showing you're successful and you can move on to other projects, internally or with somebody else. Now, moving on from that, I know a lot of you have asked about the 300, my Chrysler 300S with the Hemi. And I did a road trip video. I'm going to be editing that in the next week or so, and I'll be publishing that. It's been fantastic. It's a great car. It reminds me a lot of the 1994 S500 Mercedes I used to own. It feels just perfect. The V8, the power, the smoothness, the features, it's rocking. And I know a lot of you are asking questions, and a lot of you have purchased one, have commented on my 300 video, and yeah, it's the way to go. And I will have more content out soon, and especially for mods. You know, I'm thinking about a few things. I don't necessarily, the car doesn't have 1,000 miles on it right now. It's actually right over right there. And so, you know, it has the Beats stereo, but I've read that people throw in Infinity 6x9s in the doors. I would probably do that. I would probably go a step up and maybe get if it's compatible, the Harman Kardon D-Class amp out of the 300C and power the speakers with that in addition to the updated speakers. There's nothing wrong with the Beats. I just think, you know, a lot of people are saying that they're throwing Infinity speakers in, and it's taken it to a whole new level. It's good now, but for a road trip vehicle, you definitely want to have an upgraded stereo from the factory. And then people who are going even further bonkers than that, it's tempting, I'll tell you that. And as far as exhaust, it would be great to have, you know, downpipes and catback exhaust and maybe straight pipes, just go ballistic on it. But at the same time, I don't want something droney on the highway. So I'm really researching and asking people what they think about what they like or dislike about the modifications they've made to their exhaust and what they would do differently or what they wish they had done or what they want to do next. So I'm not at that point yet where I'm going to mod it, but maybe one day I will actually buy a second one and mod it, because you can get a pretty tattered one and then get cat skin leather and change the interior out, and you could even do the Alcantara headliner. You can do a ton of stuff. It just depends on what you want, what your budget is. 1 second. Okay, so that's the 300. There will be more content on it, and if you've got any questions, leave them below. I'll answer your questions. And one of the questions you guys had on one of my other videos in Conversation Alley was, you know, you should talk about if journalists are paid off. And it's not a touchy subject, but there are some journalists I do want to talk about that with on camera, so you can get more of a perspective. But what I can tell you is I am a publisher. Because I'm publishing to YouTube, I'm captive to the YouTube ecosystem. If they get ads, I get a portion of it. But I'm not a magazine, right? So a magazine can publish whatever they want, and then they have to get advertisers to pay for that. And it may seem like there's a bit of there's no balance in that. You know, like, oh, we're going to be fair to GM because we want them to have a lot of full page ads, but that's not necessarily how it works. The only thing I can say where it may seem like, even in my position, I'm getting paid to leave a good review, and I don't get paid by any manufacturer for anything. I don't even know who advertises on my videos. But what I will tell you is, I did go on a trip that I was invited to by Ram for the new truck in Arizona. And basically, you know, they put me in a resort where they're going to have all the other journalists, and they're going to put me on a flight. It was just Southwest. I chose Southwest Airlines, and it was the quickest, most direct solution and easiest stuff to do. And they bought dinner, and, you know, like they have one cocktail night, and, you know, people get to meet and greet each other, and you know, you're talking. I wouldn't call them competitors, but they're colleagues in the same business. And yeah, you do get fed well, and you do get put into a nice place. But think about it this way: if you're having a bad day, your whole day is messed up, and, you know, you're not going to be in the best spirit on anything. So it is important to have, you know, friendly staff. It is important to have all the amenities and things that you require. I'm not going to say I only need green M&Ms in my hotel room, but, you know, if the hotel room doesn't have shampoo, I'm going to be pretty pissed off, and that's going to affect my whole day, right? So manufacturers have to be very delicate about that, because they don't want anyone to be pissed off and have to drive a car all day with someone they may not like driving with. Could be someone from the manufacturer, could be a guy who has bad foot odor because he's wearing sandals. I don't know. But the manufacturers make sure that the day is pleasant and people are having a good time. Not necessarily that kind of good time, obviously, because you don't want to do that. But at the same time, they make sure that you're experiencing it as you would expect someone to experience it. So no, I'm not paid. I may have a nice trip, but it's only 3 days. It's 2 of those days are travel, and 1 day is at a hotel, and then they shuttle you around, and then you're driving these vehicles, and you're writing notes, and you're knowing all about. I mean, if you look at my Ram video, I had that sheet of paper, that 8.5 by 11, and I was just notes. Those are all the things I wanted to tell all of you. So if you haven't seen that video, that's my Ram 1500 video on New Car Spin, and you'll get to see that and kind of know what happens. That was my first actual media experience, and I owe it to you, because my subscriber base and my viewership has reached a point where they'll pay for that, which is good, because if I don't show the new stuff, no one's going to watch it, right? No one's interested in a 3-year-old Camry, so I'm not going to shoot it. But they are interested in brand new stuff like the truck. And because you couldn't buy one right then and there, to be able to drive one and give you the experience and go, this thing's blowing my mind, I think that's important to bring to you all so that you can see it firsthand. I think it's going to be a phenomenal success for people who have a 5 Series BMW or E-Class Mercedes, and they want to lease one, but they're like 50, 60 grand now, and they don't have an air suspension, and they're only 4-cylinder cars. Why would you do that when you can get into like a Laramie Longhorn or a Limited, and it has those big 12-inch screens and air suspension and a V8, and it's 55, 60 grand? I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer these days. But I am in Texas, so there is a bit of a obvious, like, it's going to be harder to park, things like that. But at least you're not a poser, or you're not getting the base model. You're getting a pretty nice vehicle, whether it's a truck or an SUV or a vehicle, a sedan. You want to make sure you do it right. And to me, this is the next topic I want to discuss, and it wasn't a question yet, but it was mainly about where the future is going to be. Is it going to be electric? Is it going to be autonomy? Blah, 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 blah. And for right now, where we are with EPA being in this phase of rolling back, which is okay to me, and with China doing tariffs, which may affect electronics for EVs, and with Tesla and Uber killing people through their automated systems, I mean, it's a fact, right? The automation system was on that Tesla Model X, and it ran into a barrier, which California didn't replace after someone else already crashed into it. That's not pretty, and that's the second autopilot death in a Tesla that I know of. And then you have Uber, which ran over some lady crossing the street, and she was almost across the street, and this Volvo Uber drove over this person, which was pretty bad. I saw the video, and it's not pretty, but Uber admitted that the Volvo safety system was disabled, and Volvo has the best pedestrian anti-collision safety system in the business. And to disable that is the stupidest thing you could ever do. And that's someone lost a life because of that, and that's sad. So autonomous vehicles, I am anti-autonomous vehicles. I would like vehicles that do some of the work for you so that it relieves fatigue on long drives, which when I get to the 300 and a few other drives, I'll show you what that means. Like, you can go all day driving, and it handles steering corrections and a lot of little things for you so that you're not constantly on alert, and you can just enjoy the drive, especially when there's nobody for 100 miles. You can really just be a part of the scenery. You don't just have to, like, this whole I'm in traffic and I'm texting is it's like the worst way for the human race to go. So that's why I'm not a part of that. And as far as electrification, I've had the Audis where they do the auto stop start, and I don't like that. It conditions you to roll through stop signs. One of you already caught that on my RS5 video that I published a week ago. And in the 300, it doesn't have stop start, so I come to a complete stop, and the engine's still running. It's a good feeling. But at the same time, if you do a lot of drive-throughs, like if you live in the East Coast and you go to Dunkin' Donuts every morning, or Starbucks or McDonald's all the time, and your car's sitting there idling, it doesn't make sense to sit there and idle. An EV mode would be okay, but it adds weight. I mean, that Chevy Malibu I drove was the hybrid Malibu, and it was terrible, and it was 400 pounds heavier than the regular hybrid, or the regular Malibu, the non-hybrid. So I don't think that adding weight and reducing the engine size and adding a turbo is the future. The future was probably diesel until the EPA and Volkswagen really foobarred that. I think that's gone. So my Diesel Drives channel is pretty much dormant until something comes around that people are impressed with. And that's pretty much the state of where I'm going to leave this conversationality. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I appreciate your patronage. Someone talked about merch or merchandise, and I would love to do that. I don't have a logo. I will get an artist to do kind of fun stuff, but at the same time, I have a lot of automobile swag. Like, I have Hellcat keychains, I have Honda hats. I don't wear hats, but I have 8 or 10 hats lying around in storage, and I have keychains, thumb drives. I even have a Moscow Mule kit for the Nissan Titan. I just have strange stuff that I'm never going to use, and I may I may put that out there for you all. I may just like throw some eBay links or something, or I don't know what to do yet. It's just inventory and that kind of stuff is not my thing. I'd rather produce content and just keep going. That's my whole lifestyle there, is just to produce and move on. So for people who want merchandise, let me know what kind of merchandise you're thinking about, like shirts, hats, whatever. Or maybe you would be interested in a Hellcat keychain. I wouldn't mind selling that stuff and even donating the profits, because it's really, you know, not my source of revenue. My source of revenue is this, you and YouTube in general, and whatever YouTube does to make money. And it's going to be successful. It pays a car payment once in a while. It pays a mortgage. My mortgage is really small. It's less than $1,000 a month. But that's the thing with Facebook messing up and Zuckerberg testifying soon. These advertisers are now moving their money back to Google. So I'm seeing a lift. It's not like, oh, I can retire, but at the same time it's, oh, I can take my time finding the next tech project if I really need to earn money, maybe to mod my, or to even buy a second 300 and mod the crap out of it. That's a possibility. But I don't really want to use Patreon. I don't want to, I'm not a beggar. I can't bring myself to give me money. I don't see the point. I'm already producing something, and hopefully it's good enough. Now, I do know that some of you want podcasts and some of you want these videos to be very long, and I'm trying as hard as I can. I just need more content, but I will have more on the way, and I will try and actually bring more people into it so we can have 50-minute videos instead of 25-minute videos like this. And in the meantime, podcast stuff, I'm working on that. So give me a chance to figure out which platform, and it has to make revenue at the same time. I can't just put it out there on SoundCloud for them to make money on. I need to get there at some point, and I will. And I appreciate your patience. But for now, we have YouTube, right? So understand that I read all your comments. I delete comments I think that are just completely uncalled for. And at the same time, I really do appreciate the support. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.